Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Citizens of Lorcana podcast, a podcast where we invite you to be a part of their world. We are your hosts, Jared and James, and today we're talking about the 6 inks. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to another week. Last week we talked about our experience at GAMA, which was amazing, so if you haven't had a chance to hear it, make sure to go back and check out our last pod. And this week, we're going to try something a little different.
Yep, that is correct. This week, we're officially launching ourselves into the realm of clickbait by ranking the 6 inks from worst to best according to playability.
Now, this is something we haven't done before, so make sure to let us know if you liked or didn't like what you heard.
But before we get into the rankings, let's take a minute and recap the identities of each ink. And these are lifted straight from DisneyLorcana.com. And just for fun, we're going to pick our favorite cards from each ink as we go. So I'm going to kick it off with Amber. And according to the website, Amber Glimmers are purposeful, patient, and dedicated. They're able to pursue causes and ambitions with single-minded persistence. They often work within communities, either from above as a leader or from within as a healer, bodyguard, or just a loyal follower. So this basically makes it sound like they're protective, right? I think that's the main thing that we're getting from this. They're focused and protective.
Yep, yep, I would say so.
All right, so I'm gonna say my fave. And I have these written down elsewhere because we weren't supposed to show each other our
That's
faves.
right.
So let me go find my list here. Okay, so I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast. I always have an issue doing like best of or like my top thing, but I am going to try really hard to just give an answer for one. And I'm going to guess, I'm going to pick Lord of the Underworld, Hades.
Oh, that is not what I would have expected.
And I picked him mainly because it is a really good, since his ability is allowing you to draw a card back out of your discard pile. If you're playing it with certain decks that you're going to be going fairly aggro on someone, and you're going to have a lot of stuff in your discard pile, he's really good to have to just keep basically refreshing that group of people you have constantly attacking. So and since I've played a few games in the last week, he was fairly useful, so I picked him.
He's a great one. I played one with a deck with him in it, and I was playing against Sugi from Lorcana Cast, and I kept using Hades to bring back the baby Maleficent. It was hilarious. It's hard. Same with you. It's hard to pick a favorite. And we were talking about this before we went on air. Like, is this our favorite art style? Is this our favorite that we like to play with? So I went with the one I enjoy to play with the most. And it was hard to decide.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to say the one I have the most fun with when you can get it working is Stitch Rockstar.
Yeah.
It feels so good to get that Stitch onto the field. And then whenever you play a 1 or 2 cost Glimmer to be able to draw a card. Card draw is as good as we thought it was going to be in this game. And Stitch is a great engine for drawing cards.
He was my second choice.
Moana was my second choice.
She was when I was making my list, I was like, as I lowered them down, I'm like, okay, Moana, Hades, Stitch. You know, I basically have lists of like 3 or 4 different cards that I'm like, well, it was helpful to basically say I'm only going to pick these based on playability or with the ones that I've enjoyed using in the last few games I played. Then it allowed me to limit my list more. So I didn't use Moana very much. So I was able to set that aside and say, okay, even though Moana is one of my favorite characters and I love the card, I didn't use it that much. So for playability, that's what I'm going for on this list.
I like it. Okay, let's move on to Emerald. Emerald Glimmers are flexible. Gifted with the ability to adapt to changing circumstances, they are never caught off guard. Quick thinking, but not necessarily book smart. They navigate their environment, whether physical or social, natural or artificial, with ease. And I will throw a disclaimer here. I have actually not play tested Emerald. I was going to, but then they came out with new cards, and I went with the new cards instead. However, I will say my favorite out of this group of Emerald would probably be Cheshire Cat, especially if you combo it with the Beast as Mine. Target one of their main lore getters or one of their big bodies, have it attack the Cheshire Cat, and you get rid of their big body there.
So I was also going to pick Cheshire Cat because obviously it's just a cool card, and we don't have very many emeralds to pick from. But since you picked Cheshire, I can go with my second choice, which is Cruella, which is kind of the same function, but not quite as severe as Cheshire. So she's going to put a card back in your hand. The nice thing about Cruella, where you get the bonuses, is that's not necessarily the card that attacked Cruella. You can pick another card that's on your opponent's board. So it's pretty powerful card, and if again you can use the Beast is Mine to get someone to attack Cruella, then you can definitely make use of it.
And I know people said, yeah, but with Cruella you bounce, like if you do one of their shift characters, they're like you get both cards back into their hand and they can just replay them next turn. But either way, they have to dedicate resources to replaying it, and then they have to wait a turn for the ink to dry. So it's still a good play as it slows down their game plan at least by a turn.
Exactly. Okay, so next up we have Sapphire Glimmers, and they are intellectual, intelligent, and creative. They excel at strategy, invention, and the arts. They can almost always know something, plan something, or invent something that will win the day. So my favorite from Sapphire is Detective Mickey. And this one's a little bit the look because I haven't played with Sapphire a lot, but also again, just getting that ramp going with being able to ink a card when you play it, and just continually getting yourself ahead of the game is obviously a good thing in this game. And I think it's just really good to be able to do that with a pretty low cost character, and it's Mickey.
Yep, you can't go wrong with that. My favorite card, the one that I like just smile when I play it, has got to be Aurora Dream Guardian. I'm going with all the big cards here, I guess, but I love her ward ability because more often than not, you're playing against a steel deck and they have those stupid fire the cannons or they have smash. And yeah, they can still use those against Aurora, but at least Aurora's protecting, like fire the cannons and smash. Neither one of those can take Aurora out by themselves. So she's able to protect the other glimmers there.
And I almost picked her. My second choice was actually Develop Your Brain, but I almost picked her but then she let me down in the last game we played last night, the game I played with my wife. And I was going to get my second Aurora with ward out so they could cover each other. And before I could do that, my wife just like demolished like a character, and then like just was ramping up so much lore. I was like, there was no point. She won like next turn. So I'm like, what a bummer.
Well,
But
that makes me happy that she finally won a game.
oh, she's won multiple games now.
Does she like it better now?
She still likes the game. She just doesn't want to be playing it every single night.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, this is just because we know we were testing different colors, so I could have more information since I hadn't played every color for this particular podcast. And she was like, do we have to keep playing this like every single night? I'm like, no, not every single night, just every single night up until the podcast.
For research.
But yeah,
I
so
love it.
but yeah, we got a few games, at least one or two games in every night for the last like 3 or 4 nights at least. So
No, what a good sport. All right, let's move on to Amethyst. Amethyst glimmers are wondrous, for this is the otherworldly ink of sorcerers. sages, animated objects, and other glimmers who use their special powers to achieve their aims. They are incredibly powerful when they have access to their amazing abilities, but may land in trouble if they're stripped of those or tap into power they can't control. There are so many good amethyst cards, so many good ones. It is hard to pick a favorite. Um, I will say, like lately, the one that I've really enjoyed playing, and there's a lot of them, okay? But I'm just going with this one, is Jafar. I mean, having him on there when he challenges as a 5/5 attacker, it's so strong. He can clear pretty much any of the Dreamborn characters. Um, and he's a great card for controlling the opponent's board.
That is an unusual choice, but definitely a good one because it lets me pick my first one, which I thought you were going to pick. So I had a second choice, which is Friends on the Other Side, of course. Just that 2-card draw, being able to sing it to get it out. When if you want to play some other cards, especially if you draw something, you still have all that ink waiting. So that one has actually won me at least 1 or 2 games recently. And if you had picked that one, I was going to pick Pascal because that is one cool little lizard.
You didn't go with Olaf?
If we were picking it just for my favorite, I would have picked Olaf, but no, I had to pick based on playability, and Friends on the Other Side is just too good. Like I said, it's won me games by getting some cards into my hand that I needed. And
Yeah,
so, it has to be.
it's such a good card, and it feels so good to play. Trust me, my mind, I wanted to pick that, but I was like, no, I'm gonna choose something a little different for Amethyst. But yeah, hands down, it's got to be, if not the best, one of the top 3 best in the games
Yeah,
so far.
exactly. All right, so we're gonna get into some Ruby. Ruby Glimmers are daring. They use their speed and bravery to defy the odds. They are often warriors, explorers, and daredevils. That is the shortest ink description. And the thing is that the Ruby is so tough. And my top choice, and again, I had a hard time, but I'm going with Dragonfire.
I was gonna go with that one too.
Instant removal, boom. I
It
mean,
feels so good.
and the reason why I picked it is not because I've been able to play with it and it was been awesome, but because of how much it changed my game and ruined my game when it was played against me, which means it's a really good card because it stops people cold. So it's awesome. I love it.
Well, if you're going with Dragonfire, I will go with Tigger. Having those evasive cards.
Oh yeah.
And again, we don't know how much lore he has, but there's not a lot that can really deal with evasive characters right now, especially ones that are strong like Tigger. But he's the cheapest of the, or is it Goofy?
Goofy's the cheaper one.
That's who I'm thinking of. Goofy. I mean they're all good, but I like Goofy because he's what,
He's
5?
5. Yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty good, pretty affordable. But
So,
I agree that Dragonfire is so good.
yeah. And so that was the reason why my wife was just ramping up that lore so fast. She got Goofy out and she already had a few out, other characters out, and she just was able to 4, then 6, and then whatever lore every turn for the last few turns. And I'm like, I got nothing for that. I got nothing. But yeah, those evasive characters, man. That was my second pick, was basically the evasive set that is in Ruby. That is just awesome.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about steel now. Steel glimmers are strong, large, and imposing, armored, or just plain powerful. Steel glimmers can apply huge amounts of brute force to get the job done. My favorite here, again, there's so many. um, I love the Captain Hook Forceful Duelist just for the early pressure he can put on the board state. And it's a sweet looking card. So
Yes,
you get the best of both worlds.
exactly. And I'm going to pick Hercules because that early bodyguard to save all of those 1s and 2s that are still left that can just quest for lore with impunity is pretty awesome.
I agree. I really wanted to try the Mickey Mouse, the Three Musketeer one,
Mhm.
because it has bodyguard, but every game I've played where he's been in my deck, I just have not been able to get him out
Yeah,
because he's a six cost.
I think I played one or two with him in the deck, and the same thing. I couldn't get it. I think I might have got him out once, and then I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, this is the one of the ones again where my wife was just like, "Oh, look, I dragon fired." So it's like, come on.
Yeah,
And
but
my wife is playing the last few games. She started with Ruby Emerald. I built that for her because that, basically just throw every card in there except for four, and you're done. And she won one, and I won one, and then I built her Ruby Steel, and Ruby Steel is really fun, and she's really enjoying it. She's like, "Oh, so I'm playing this one until you take it away from me."
okay, so with that out of the way, now that we know the identities of these six inks, now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to lay the framework for how the rest of this is going to work. James and I both created a list of six inks, ranking them from worst to best in terms of playability. We haven't shown each other our list yet, so we will be just as surprised as you are, kind of like with our favorite cards. With that being said, James, which ink do you rank as the least playable?
I think this one might be your choice as well, and that's mainly because of the card count, and that's Emerald. There's just not enough cards to really give it a wide flavor of how it's going to work. Even though there's powerful cards in there, it's just not enough to really help build what I mean. For me, it just didn't feel like it was working 100% when I put the emeralds in that Ruby Emerald deck for my wife. It just there wasn't enough. So I think Emerald with other inks may be better. There may be better stuff you can do, but just what I saw in playing against it, it just wasn't good enough.
Yep, you were right. I picked Emerald as my least playable. And again, I hold out judgment because we just don't know. Like, there's just not enough cards to form a cohesive strategy with Emerald. I mean, and each of the cards on their own are decent cards. Like the Steamboat Mickey Willie is a Steamboat Willie Mickey is a he's a solid card. 3, 3, 4. Um, and we already talked about the Cheshire Cat and Lady Tremaine. And well, we didn't talk about Lady Tremaine. We talked about Cruella de Vil. So each of these cards has the potential to be something interesting, but I just don't think there's enough Emerald card revealed yet to create like a working strategy here. So I would have to agree there.
I feel
So
like I feel like that it doesn't. I mean, that's kind of why this is kind of like a clickbaity thing. Is because based on what we've seen, as we get more cards, like we've got a bunch of cards in Steel and Amethyst now, and those inks, everyone's like, I love those inks. It's like that Emerald's going to get better with when they reveal more cards. I mean, they have to. The stuff they've revealed so far is really good. There's just not enough of it. So yes, Emerald is the worst right now, but if they give us three new Emerald cards in the next 2 weeks, all of a sudden Emerald might be like, hey, look at Emerald, that's moving towards the top now. So
and I just have a feeling that Emerald is going to be a really fun color to play.
yeah, I
Like,
think so.
I think it's going to be one of those colors where it either works really good, like you get all the right cards and you get to like play just a really fun game, or else it's going to work really bad. So I okay, what I'm trying to say here is I don't know how consistent Emerald is going to be, but again, this is coming from a TCG newbie here, so take it for what it's worth.
So what do you have in fifth place?
Okay, this is where it started to get hard for me. um, I went with uh Ruby here. I went with Ruby because it does have the removal with Dragonfire and Maleficent. It's also got the evasive package with Goofy, Tigger, and Mickey. But the evasive package is also expensive. I mean, we talked about Goofy being six cost, right?
Goofy 5, Tigger
5. Okay.
6,
That's
and
what it is.
Mickey's 8. So 5,
So, I
6
mean,
for the evasives.
by the time you're getting to turn 5, like that in a lot of games for me, that's approaching the mid to late game. And for Ruby, that's like bringing their hard hitters online when you hit number 5. Um, and then Dragonfire feels really good, but is it good enough to justify, putting it into your deck? Like it really depends. It pairs well with Sapphire, but because Sapphire has that ramp package. But as far as the ink color itself, I had to put Ruby number 5.
Interesting. So I went, believe it or not, the one you just mentioned, Sapphire. And I mainly did that because I just couldn't get something working. Like the main thing that so far, besides the ramp, is the item cards that Maurice and Bell both help you play. And there just aren't enough item cards yet to really that are really worth playing in one other ink that I feel like it's really doing its job. So it's a really good ink for the ramp, but I just wanted to do more and it wasn't doing enough. So, and like I said, Aurora let me down, not being able to get that second one out. So I'm I'm
Mm.
I'm thumbs downing Sapphire lower than the others just because of that. And then,
I
go ahead.
I want so bad for Sapphire to be my color. And well, we'll talk about when we get to my turn for Sapphire, but uh, it hurts my heart that you put it number 5.
Well, let me say that as you mentioned that it starts getting hard like after that first one. It's like okay, Emerald's the easy one. I would have to say that my rankings weren't the top 6 so much as 4 number ones, a number 2, and a number 6. So Sapphire wasn't that far behind, but it was behind the other 4. And so I basically, when you hear me say my order for numbers 1 through 4, I basically could have switched almost any of them for
Yeah.
the other at this point because I felt like they were all fun and playable and had really good things about them. So from here on out, we're just talking about the best stuff.
So what have you got at number 4?
So number 4, I decided that I would go with Amber. And despite the fact that it has, the Moana package for the princesses, which I actually haven't played a full princess package deck yet, or it has Stitch with, being able to get those 1s and 2s out. I've only played a couple of games with it, and it just wasn't quite enough for me in the games I played to be able to put it up that high. I'm sure I just played something wrong or I didn't build the deck exactly right. And I'm sure that you could build something awesome with it. It just ended up in fourth because I just didn't have a good couple of games when I did play it.
That's fair. I put my Sapphire as number 4, and that hurt me as well, but it was for a lot of the reasons that you articulated. I mean, the thing that sets Sapphire above Ruby for me is the fact that it has pretty solid 1-drops with Flounder. It has Aurora, Royal Princess, as a 2-drop, which allows you to shift into Aurora Dream Guardian. That's a solid play. It also has Let It Go, which is another removal spell like Dragonfire. It doesn't feel as good as Dragonfire, but it's inkable, which is nice. And then it's got the ramping abilities in it. So, but again, when I've played Sapphire in the past and I've ran the ramp package, there have been a lot of times where I will end up with Detective Mickey in my hand or One Jump Ahead, and I don't really like need them, or I need that card to be ink itself. And it's just sitting in my hand, like doing nothing. So that's frustrating for me. Um, I love the ramp ability, but you wouldn't think not being inkable would be such a big issue, but it really changes how you play. You have to be able to ink a card each turn, or else you're just going to fall behind.
Yeah, for sure.
Next, we have number 3. So, top half here. For number three, I actually went with amber. Um, and now we're gonna start like covering the same inks that we've talked about. Otherwise, I like amber for a lot of the reasons that I've said already. I mean, amber has some good one drops with Hey Hey. It's got Stitch, it's got Moana, and there's so many different ways you can use amber. You can use it for Stitch to get that draw engine going. But for me, like it's hard to get that engine going. Like I've only gotten it going a few times. Or you can use Moana and run a princess package, which pairs well with Sapphire because Sapphire has a lot of princesses. Um, but Amber also has Minnie, uh, the princess card. I don't think there's any other princesses in
Ariel.
Amber.
Ariel.
Oh yeah. Ariel.
But she can't sing. So
She can't sing. But to have Moana's ability where you can quest with your princesses and then quest with Moana and ready up your princesses, it is so good. It is so good. I mean, being able to take away your opponent's ability to challenge your characters is a really good ability.
yes, it's really good. It just feels again a little bit incomplete to where you can't really make the best use of it. Now, I'm going to try building a princess deck at some point so I can test that out and put in some good ramp. Maybe do it like you said, the amber sapphire, and just get some ramp in there to get that Moana out as soon as possible, and just start questing for lore and just see how fast you can get it out.
One with just in time, and this runs into the same problem not being inkable. But if you draw just in time in your opening hand and you have Moana and you can get Moana out on turn three with just in time,
Perfect.
it's
Yeah.
it's
But
it's so good.
how often can you manage that, right? Let's see. So my third is one you've already picked, and that's Ruby. And it sounds like we're going to have the same top two. So Ruby for me, I think the only thing that's detracting is that it doesn't have low cost stuff in it, which you can fill in from the other color. But with the removal and the evasive, it just feels like just a really powerful color to add into either or any of the other colors except Emerald at this point, and makes it just that much more powerful.
So interesting that the things that I was knocking Ruby for are the things that you are praising Ruby for.
Right? Different. I mean, that's TCGs, man. Different kinds of players love different things.
But I will say, I mean, to your point, Ruby makes a great ink to combo with other inks. I mean, there's no getting around that. That Dragonfire is so good, and throwing Mickey in there. So I think it is a great ink to combo.
So now, since we basically know that we have the same two inks to end, uh, let's see if we have the same order at this point. So I'm going to say my second place ink is Steel.
Mine too.
Yeah,
I mean, Amethyst can't not be number one.
right. I mean, it can't, but Steel is full of so many good cards, and it has the both smash and the cannons and the ability to get those cannons back and the powerful one drop hook. It's got so much good stuff, and bodyguard. I mean, it's so much good stuff to add to basically any other color to just get those damage in, get those protections up, and just start questing for lore, and hopefully let your hooks and your cannons and smash take care of your opponent while your bodyguards protect your questers.
Well, the thing that I love about Steel is everything that you said. The cannons, I mean, and there's so many two drop. I mean, there's so many cards that have two willpower that you can just wipe off the board with cannons. It's so good. But the thing that I really like about Steel is it makes your opponent think about how they're going to interact with you. I mean, because they could send their characters on quest for lore, but if they see that Captain Hook there, he will wipe out a two drop, sometimes even a three drop. Even like Hades, what is it, Lord of the Underworld? That's a 4 cost, but it's a 3/2. Hook will take that out. So It really makes you think like, do I want to quest for this? Do I want to wait till I have my board a little more clear? Now, that also makes you as a steel player have to play more defensively because if you're going to put out a Captain Hook or a Hook forceful duelist, you're not going to quest and leave them open for attack unless you have really good reason to. Like that's just not the best way to use them. But if you get that Hercules out there, I mean, it's awesome.
Go to town.
Go to town. And that's why I really wanted to try the Mickey Musketeer because it's 6 cost, but it's a 2 strength, 7 willpower.
Yeah.
And hiding all those bodies behind it, like probably not feasible, but I'm just imagining a wall of 4 Mickey Mouse Musketeers. That would be impossible to get through.
It would be very difficult. Yes, you'd have to have 4 dragon fires.
Yes, yes. Or on the opposite end, if you, and I've never played this card and I've never seen it played, but if you have Simba out, I mean, when Simba challenges, he
You
has 7.
wait, you did see it played. You dragon fired it in our live game
That's right. That's
at
right.
Gamma. The what it was out for like 3 seconds. You
So
immediately dragon fired it as soon as it got to your turn, which was the very next play.
that's why I blocked it out of my memory.
It wasn't even on the board long enough to remember.
It's
I was
hilarious.
so happy. I got a Simba in my hand, and I'm like, well, I'm not every because then I was top decking except for that Simba, and so every card I drew, I'm like, well, Simba's still better than this, so let's ink this, and just kept getting up to it until I had enough for Simba.
Well, listen, I was in a precarious situation because it felt like you and Liam were kind of going at it. And I don't know, like whenever I would strike one of you, like I dragon fired your Simba, then it felt like you guys came after me, like both of you. It was, I don't know, that multiplayer was interesting.
It was fun. I mean, it was the first one we played, so it's like, yeah, we got to figure out how this thing works.
That's right.
I'm guessing that we know what your number one is. So why is Amethyst your number one?
Amethyst is so good. I mean, it has multiple avenues of packages that you can use. I mean, one of the most common ones is the Mickey Mouse and Brooms combo. That is so good. And for those of you who don't know, Mickey Mouse Sorcerer has the ability to reduce the cost of brooms. So if you have one Mickey Mouse Sorcerer on the field, your brooms go down to 1 cost. And then the brooms themselves have an amazing ability to sweep a card back into a player's play card. So if you're playing with an opponent that has a steel deck, you can sweep the cannons back into their deck. So their hook can't take advantage of that. But then also it's like the little things with like Baby Maleficent having 2 lore when she quests and having amazing card draw with friends on the other side. I mean, even if you're struggling, you could pull out a magic mirror if you're that desperate, but there's so many options. It's so versatile. How about you? Why do you like it?
Mainly because of all of those things with the card draw. And I mean, I was just looking at it and like, yes, they have 3 of the best 1-drops in the game. The Maleficent with 2 lore, Pascal with evasive when you get another character out, and Olaf with 3 willpower to basically get out there and take a few hits from early cards and take a few hits in order to get them gone. So between all of that, and then you add in the drawing cards and you add in the Mickey Broom situation, which is if you can get that running, man, you could go to town on that. I mean, that one I got like 1 or 2 turns of making that work before my Mickey got dragon fired. But I mean, it's an awesome thing if you can get it running for a turn or 2, and or even more would be awesome. But it's just some cool stuff. I mean, it's just a lot of cool stuff that works all really well together and complements the other inks as well. So you can play it with all the other inks, and then you can make a good deck. So I just really love playing with I think virtually every single deck I've built so far has had Amethyst in it.
Yeah. Amethyst, I think, has the most cards revealed so far, but they're all just really good cards. I mean, even the Maleficent Sorceress, the 3 cost 2/2, where she basically replaces herself by letting you draw a card.
Yep.
I mean, for those of you who haven't played this game, we cannot stress how important card draw is. Like if you are find yourself in a situation where you're top decking, which basically means you have no cards in hand and you're just drawing the top card hoping to get something good, like it doesn't feel good. You'll probably end up drawing a coconut basket
Don't
or
put the coconuts in the deck.
or something else similarly useless. Like if you have no ability to draw the cards or search your deck, I mean it's pretty much game over at that point. So I'm hopeful that the other cards will get card. I mean, I'm hopeful that the other inks will get some card draw on them. But for now, I mean, Amethyst is the king of card draw.
Yeah, and so that's why all of my decks have been built with it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Well, what did you guys think about our rankings? Were we right or were we wrong? Take to the comments or
who
something like
won?
that, right?
Like, yeah, who won between Jared and James? Who picked the best list?
We had three of the same, like numbers 5, 4, and 3 are where we were different. So
Yeah,
but I think pretty much anybody would probably choose the same, first, second, and sixth.
right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, some people do have some preferences for certain plays, and they might like it a little bit more. But I don't think you can really. I mean, I don't know who would put something besides Amethyst at the top.
No.
You know,
I can maybe see an argument for Amber being number 2 over Steel,
right?
but Amethyst is definitely number 1. Oh, another thing that I forgot to mention with Ruby is Mulan. I mean, Mulan is just a great card where when you banish an opposing character, all the rest of your characters get +1 lore.
And Aladdin.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't even played with Aladdin, but he has an amazing ability.
I got hit with. I've gotten hit with that a couple of times because, as I mentioned, she's had a Ruby Emerald and then a Ruby Steel deck, so she's had the ability to get out Aladdin early when she was playing Ruby Emerald, and that was the best play she was able to make. And then being able to banish someone and then get that 4 lore swap. I mean, it's pretty good.
And that's each time he banishes somebody.
Each time it's a 4 lore swap. So
Wow.
and he has 2 lore to quest with, so you're basically, instead of just questing for 2, you're getting 2 if you banish someone and making your opponent lose 2. So it's a 4 swap instead
Oh
of
yeah.
the 2 gain, So yeah, no, it's a good card if you can get it working right. And once Emerald gets more cards, and that's why. So what we did is that's why she was playing with Ruby Emerald. Is I said let's play with the starter deck colors first, and see what it's like playing more with the colors that the starter decks have, so we can get an idea of what uh, what Ravensburger thinks the colors should be that are like should be together, like as the basics, and then go from there and see why and what is happening with the different colors when you put the other things together. And of course, it's going to be much easier to figure that out once we have all the cards. But getting a feel for the things was what we wanted, and I think it was a lot of fun playing the different games and being able to figure out the different ways that things work.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, learning this new game has just been so enjoyable. So, is there anything else we want to talk about with the inks?
I don't think so. Just can't wait for more cards.
Well, in that case, we have not had really any news since Gamma. So we are going to jump into our Jeopardy segment, unless you can think of anything else.
There was no news since Gamma.
Like
It's
literally,
nothing.
they had one post, and it was a hey, nice to meet everybody at Gamma.
Yeah, which it was. It was really awesome to meet everybody.
Oh yeah, what was your highlight?
My
No, we already put
highlight.
a bow on it.
Can I
We already
pick
put a bow
one?
on
Oh
it.
my goodness. Well, actually, it was hilarious. Last night, I opened up. I hadn't watched it at all, so I opened up Liam's live videos from Gamma, and I
Mm,
was watching them, and I saw myself talking to Ryan,
mhm.
and I was like, oh hey, look, there I am when I was talking to Ryan. I'm like, that was so cool. I got to spend like somewhere around 10 minutes just chatting with Ryan while the games were going on that first night. And that was just so cool to be able to just listen to him talk, give him, tell him how much I appreciated things, and just having chats about stuff, and it was just really cool to be able to talk to Ryan about that stuff. He didn't like give me any deep secrets about Lorcana or anything.
Right.
It was just a fun conversation, which if you do watch Liam's stream, you can see how, and I realized this. I mean, I knew this anyway, because, I've lived with myself for 50 or something years, but I talk with my hands a lot. And I'm like watching this going, wow, my hands are moving a lot while I'm talking. It was hilarious to see. I never see myself, so that was fun. But chatting with Ryan was just really cool, because it was just the thing that I've mentioned on the podcast last week when we recorded it, and I think on the other one with Sugi, just how cool it was talking with all the Ravensburger employees, because it was just so cool to hear how much effort and care they're putting into the game. And I think just getting that, I mean, that from my perspective, that is the coolest thing, because there's just so much stuff out there that, people are just cranking out just to crank it out. And you can tell when things are made with care. And so it was just really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll share something that I didn't share in any of the other podcasts. And it was after you and Liam went home. So Ryan did a day 2 presentation where he gave the same presentation. People asked different questions, but during the presentation, he's like, hey, in our back, we have, these couple guys. It sounded like he said Stefan and another guy. I can't remember the name, but I talked to the guys in the Lorcana community who are from Germany, and they talk about an employee for Ravensburger named Stefan. So after the presentation, I went up to this guy and I was like, hey, do you work in Germany? He's like, oh, I work for a German company. I was like, yeah, but do you work for the Germany like headquarters? He's like, no, I'm actually the CEO of Ravensburger North America. It's like, oh, you're Stefan. He's like, yeah, that's right. I was like, oh, my apologies. It was so embarrassing. But this goes back to what you're saying about how humble and authentic these Ravensburger employees are. He sat there and chatted with me, and he's like, hey, just want you to know, somebody recommended your podcast. I've listened to it. I really enjoy it. And just to have somebody who's on that level say that they enjoy our podcast,
Right.
it was incredible. And that was from the CEO down to everybody. And the second highlight that I had, this was before the presentation. I got there like half hour early because literally I had nothing else to do.
Wait for your plane.
I was just sitting there, and some of the Ravensburger team was sitting at another table. I was sitting at a table by myself, and then Steve comes up and just sits at the table with me, and we chatted for like 15 minutes. It was so cool. So those
That's
were
awesome.
probably 2 highlights that I wanted to share.
It's good to hear. I mean, come on, they are just people, but
They really
people,
are.
they're people making the game that we've come to love and want to play so badly. And so they're basically rock stars. And when they come and say hi to you, it means a big deal.
But
Yeah.
not only that, like
Go
the not only that, but the appreciation that they expressed for us, like especially Ryan and Steve. It's like every time they saw us, they're like, hey, we really appreciate what you guys are doing for the community. It's just so awesome that they care.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about this, I don't think, because we recorded the live from Gamma episode before we talked to him, but we also got to talk to Philippe Frankie, the head of global games. I mean, they had the big guns show up at Gamma. They weren't all there right at the same time, but they all showed up. They brought out the big guns. And I think that was a pretty big deal that they were all showing up there. I think they might have had some meetings and things with distributors or vendors or who knows, but I think there was some high level stuff going on at Gamma.
Absolutely.
And Philip was awesome. He was so cool. I mean, he's basically a 60s kind of surfer dude who is working at a game company now. It's pretty awesome.
Just for people who don't know, he used to be the CEO of Ravensburger North America. until he got promoted to global head of games or
I
something
asked
like
him. I asked him about that. He didn't get promoted to head of global games. Technically, he already was. He was doing two
that.
jobs.
Oh, okay.
It just wasn't like in. It was just wasn't like official. So they basically made him, head of global games was as he was basically doing that job while he was also the head of Ravensburger North America. And then he's
Amazing.
like, I'm going to concentrate on that. And then they brought Stefan in to be the new CEO. So
Amazing.
yeah, so that's pretty awesome.
All right. Are we ready for Disney Jeopardy now?
I am ready.
Okay. I hope you have brushed up on your names.
No, but we'll see how it goes.
All right. For 100, these are the two characters who sing Love is an Open Door in the movie Frozen.
That would be Anna and that jerk, Hans.
Correct. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. This one would be a struggle for me, just because I've only seen this movie once, but it might not be a struggle for you. This is the name of the girl that befriends Lilo in Lilo and Stitch.
This is going to be difficult for me because I haven't seen this movie in a long time. Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't even know how to give you a hint. Nani is her name.
Nani. That name does sound familiar.
Okay. For 300, this is the name of the firefly in Princess and the Frog.
See, I know this one. Is it Ray?
That is correct.
Nice. All right.
Okay. What is the name of Tarzan's adoptive mother?
You're trying to phrase this as a trick question.
Sorry. This is the name of
No,
Tarzan's
no.
adoptive mother, gorilla.
I also haven't seen this movie in a long time.
It
And
rhymes with Nala.
Hala?
Starts with the
Sorry.
Hala. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Ding, ding, ding.
I did not know that. No. That was a very good hint.
Okay, for 500. I brought some tough questions today.
Yeah.
This is the name of the guard in Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's the love interest of
Right.
Esmeralda.
Okay. So I might get this slightly wrong because I've actually never seen the whole movie. But
Oh,
I do know a lot of the characters from a lot of different things. So is this like Phoebus or something like that?
yes, that's it.
Nice.
Oh man, I never would have gotten that.
Telling you,
So
certain Disney
you
stuff just really helped me remember some certain names, but apparently not Kala or Nani.
were 3 out of 5.
That's
So
not bad.
and I mean, starting from 200, those were hard questions.
They were fairly difficult, but I mean, again, it's just have you seen it and do you remember it enough, to know? I mean, if you're gonna be pulling out like best friends of like out of every single movie, I mean, you're gonna only get some of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I feel good about that. I don't think I did that badly.
No. Let's wrap this up. So if you liked what you heard, you can follow us on YouTube. You can subscribe to us on the different podcast platforms. You can follow me on Twitter at Citizens of Lorcana. And James, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere online at Dan Regal. You can check out geekshotphoto.com for photography and social media and stuff links from my wife and I. And thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.